I don't really compare myself to other people. All right, what is going on, guys? So today I'm in a park. It is super bright out, but that does not mean it's hot. It's actually my favorite weather right now in Vancouver. You can see I'm just chilling in a little tennis court right now in a park, but it's not too cold, it's not too hot out. It's just like a kind of like a perfect weather right now, but the sun is very, very bright, so I'm gonna do my very best here. But basically I just want to talk about like comparing things and comparisons, and when we compare ourselves to other people. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I noticed that a lot of the time when I'm struggling, I know my last video I was talking about being in a slump, but when I'm kind of struggling with my self-image, or just kind of like how I'm feeling about myself, I know a lot of the time I notice like it's either when I'm like comparing myself to other people, or like when I've pretty much just recently compared myself to someone. And so I wanted to talk about how essentially we compare ourselves to others. And now I did have a video like a while back called like why you don't feel good enough, but I wanted to strictly just talk about comparing yourself to someone else today. And so it's something that you kind of have to realize first off, that everybody makes these comparisons. Even the people that say, I don't really compare myself to other people, that in and of itself is a comparison to other people comparing themselves to other people. So pretty much everybody does this, and it is natural. And I was wondering kind of basically like why we do it in the first place. And so the first reason I basically could think of was it started off as like an instinct to make sure that, you know, you probably have enough things to get a mate, right? And so you compare yourself to the people around you to make sure that when selecting a mate, your mate's going to want to choose you because you have the same amount of resources or the same amount of skills or abilities, or you're going to be able to fend off predators, etc. So the other reason you might do it is just to make sure that you're going to have enough resources to survive in the first place, let alone get a mate. Right? So you see the people around you, you can see that they have enough to make sure that they survive. And if you can get the same amount of stuff, then most likely you'll survive as well. So that's kind of like the first, I guess, reasons why that we would compare people, or why it was like kind of etched into our brains to do this so much. We want to also think about like how these types of things can hurt us. And so I talked about it in my social media video as well. Essentially, it just kind of creates like a false reality. We compare things like Instagram pictures or YouTube videos or Facebook pictures to the real lives that we live, and then we wonder why we don't always have those amazing things that we see on Instagram and YouTube. So it does create a little bit of a false reality for us. The other thing is we're not considering like kind of where they started in their journey versus where you started in your journey, or where I started in my journey. And so without being able to see like the starting point or the finish line, it's a lot harder to make these actual accurate comparisons as well. So that's another thing that you have to keep in mind. And then you also want to consider like what part of their life they're in. So if someone's buying a house or buying a new car, and you're kind of just freshly graduated out of high school, wondering why you can't afford these things as well, then there's some pretty clear evidence or some pretty clear indicators as to why that might be. And so basically you have to understand like what part of your life that you're in when you're comparing yourself to other people as well. Now, comparisons aren't always a bad thing. Obviously, these things can benefit us as well. And so a couple of ways I could think of right off the bat that comparing could obviously help you is compare yourself to yourself. You know, make sure you're either growing in certain areas that you want to grow, or maybe cutting out bad habits in areas that you don't want to do anymore. Right? So basically you want to be able to compare yourself to your past self and make sure that you're always, you know, improving or getting better, or at least feeling like you're in the same spot or not regressing. At the end of the day, I guess, is what most people want to do, is not regress, right? Which is a pretty good goal to have. You always want to at least stay where you are, but you definitely want to get better. The other way I think that comparing yourself can actually kind of start to benefit you is when you're comparing yourself to other people, and then you also can start to either learn from their mistakes or learn from what they did really well that worked for them. Now again, not everything that works for some people is going to work for other people, but when you make comparisons, you can kind of see like where you've made mistakes, or maybe where they've made mistakes, and if they've made the same mistake as you, then maybe how they learned from it or how they adapted from it. So definitely making a couple comparisons can be beneficial. I pretty much just wanted to summarize with saying, like, it's normal, it's completely normal to make these sorts of comparisons. So don't feel bad if you find yourself always comparing yourself to other people. It's etched into us. It's a natural thing. It's human beings. We always compare. Obviously, like, the ways that it can hurt us, which are pretty evident, but we also talked about how comparing can also start to benefit you from either learning from people's mistakes or just comparing yourself to yourself, right? So don't feel bad if you are making these comparisons. Just try and make them in the best way possible, in a productive way. Just remember, not everyone's journey is going to be exactly identical to yours, right? So you do always have to try and learn from your own mistakes, but you can try and pull a little bit of information from other people's mistakes as well. That way you don't have to fail as hard or fail as bad or fail as often when you're kind of learning from other people's mistakes as well. Other than that, go out there, have a good day, have a good week, and try and spread some positivity around. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.